God and welcome back. David St. Romain was in with us last week. What's happening, dude?
Well, other than a big lack of sleep.
Hey, you know what? Join the club.
Feeling it, brother.
Join the club. Your actually lack of sleep is kind of connected to mine because we're going in the last week of the legislative session.
Yes.
I want to talk. You are an entertainer, and I want to talk about the crossing those streams because it's not all business all the time.
Don't cross the stream.
That's kind of the point. But it's not all business all the time. No. But I also want to do this while being very, very careful.
Yes.
Not to. I mean, it's that not to.
I think one of the coolest things about during the session is there's a lot of cool little events going on around the capital city. Mm-hmm. Typically they're invited, and I get a call and I get an invite to come out and grab my guitar and show up and entertain our delegates, who, by the way, are working their tails off like 12 to 14 hours a day right now.
No, I know.
People don't realize that one of our senators had to leave the party because I don't want to mention gender or because I don't want to associate who they are, but they had to leave because there was a big meeting going on, a committee meeting that was still happening at 9 p.m. last night.
Yeah.
And so it was, so for us to, we need to look back and go, well, they do work really hard and they don't live in the city. In
most of them, that's correct. Yeah.
So they're rolling for like 2 straight months. Mm-hmm. They don't sleep.
No, exactly. Which can't be good for decision making. But that's a whole.
I was looking at the list of these symptoms.
No, we're to that point now where, like, I just from my text messages, like early in the session, I'll get responses around 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yep.
This part of the session, I'll get responses around 11:30, midnight.
Right.
And I'm like,
I know. But that's cool.
It's the nature of the beast, though,
right.
And I totally get it because when you're going that long for the, they're physically in the building until late, and then even after they're out of the building, they've got to be networking with others at events like ones that you would be at or you'd be performing at, and it doesn't stop. I gotta wonder though, there's got to be a better way. Like, can we not front load this?
Well, I think that's like what we see in D.C. right now with the debt ceiling. I think it's you had the last 100 days to negotiate, and we shoved it all into 1 week or 2 weeks.
And does that sense of urgency create the desired result? Because I don't know of any other aspect of life where desperation leads to good decisions.
No, and I got to watch always what I say, but I think I think that the desperation forces the hand. It's as simple as that. You don't have a choice.
You're counting on your opposition's desperation, while not counting on your own.
Which means you better have your eggs in all your eggs in a good basket.
It's like everything's a sports analogy to me. So bear with me.
It's okay.
Okay.
I like
it. Used to be in basketball, if you were down by 4 or 5 points with about a minute and a half to go, you'd start fouling with like 2 minutes to go.
Right.
Now they don't foul until like the last 30 seconds and it's already too late.
Right.
Now it's like you've pushed this to the point of where you're giving yourself one chance, one opportunity. That's it. You have one chance. No, I'm not going all Eminem. You have one chance at this.
Love it.
So, but you've narrowed down your field to where you've increased your margin of error.
Right.
Like your margin of error. I should say decrease your margin of error, because if you miss, you miss.
Yeah,
that's it. You have to do this right on this one time, or like you said, June 5th would roll around, our nation would default. June 8th would roll around, sine die, they have to close the session by June 8th.
I love it.
So
but you know what, they are, we still have another week, and that's, and they're getting everything done over there, a few blocks away. But I did enjoy, so what you were asking me about was the crossing of me being able to entertain, and during the session, I tend to play quite a bit of gatherings. Sometimes they're put on by some of your political action committees. Sometimes they're put on by actual delegates who just want to have a gathering at their office or a party or whatever. And it's one of the coolest things for me because I never considered myself in politics, but now I feel like I'm part of the fabric there.
It's all part of the fabric.
I love it.
I mean, do you like map out your set list for a desired result? No.
I mean, I do look at the age and age group of the room, and see.
Well, I mean, the political makeup of the room. I mean, if they're fighting over the budget, are you like, okay, we're doing why can't we be friends is up next?
Right,
okay?
right. Or there's a song called Chapter 7 in my first album. Let's turn the page to Chapter 7.
There you go.
So it's like, no, we're not bankrupting the state anytime soon. But no, it's been a great session for me from an entertainment standpoint. I have really enjoyed it, and I see it's very unique. My positioning of being able to have influence, I don't like that word, have someone's ear. And so when I do get the moment to speak to our delegate in that gathering, I take advantage of it. I mean, I have my own passions, my own projects, and my own nonprofit, and my own, arts and veterans and all these things that I care about. So I get these moments. Hey, man, this is my time to push.
Okay.
Push
Yeah, you mentioned veterans, which is important. Franklin Foyle's your guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Franklin Foyle's your from start to finish. I will swear by him all day long. I love that dude.
Yep.
I love that he has a passion for it, and I love that he executes on it. As far as putting together that database to help veterans employ other veterans, the whole networking of y'all understand each other a lot more than I'll ever understand you.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the same thing.
He speaks the language.
Yes.
And that's the deal. And I remember when he was putting that together, I think it was last year or maybe the year before, Betsy was a big part of that. And he came to a VIP dinner for our nonprofit. And he's been an awesome advocate for veterans from the get-go since he got into office. And just ever since I've been able to get to know him, he's helped push any veterans benefits and veterans database and just anything that we can do to support our veterans. But I tell you, there's been a lot of veterans continuous push to support our veterans in our state.
Oh, yeah.
And I do want to tell you, June 13th, I didn't even think about it today, but June 13th, we are having our first alliance meeting here in Baton Rouge called the MACRA meeting, which is all veteran serving organizations are invited to join us at the American Red Cross on June 13th for lunch. That is going to be put on by a small group of us that have come together. It is called the MACRA Alliance, and it is all veteran serving, non-government or government also, if you'd like to join us and you work for the government.
So not this coming Tuesday, but the one after.
Yep, and we'll talk about it again next week.
That'll be the full slate because after next Thursday, the session's over with. Right.
So no more yapping on that.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, good. That's a little tease for what's coming up next week. In the meanwhile, but back to it though, you brought up a very good point. We're only going to have a minute or so until break, so we might have to carry this over until the next segment.
No problem.
But you mentioned having a voice.
Yeah.
And I think it gets overlooked how many of us actually do have a voice.
I agree.
We just choose not to utilize it.
I agree. I said this last night to one of our senators. I don't always know how to ask.
Right. Because you don't know, do you need to speak the same legalese that's in the bill, or can you just speak from the heart? Or is it out of turn to our senators and representatives? They are never really off the clock. Yeah. I know that's glossed as a part-time job at the Capitol, but that's just because the session only happens for a couple months out of the year.
Right.
They still represent you throughout the rest of the year. So if you see them at a ribbon cutting, if you see them at a town hall, if you see them at the Burbank soccer complex, they signed up for this gig. Hit them up.
Absolutely. And they don't make enough. I mean, we
yeah, you're right. No.
I got to be honest. We talk about, they get all these perks, but in cash, dollar paychecks, they work really hard for the small amount.
Let's push pause for just a second. David St. Romain's in studio. We're going to pick the conversation up after we check on your money now, check traffic. We're coming back next at 6:46.
It's so easy.
Well, what is it? Is that a minute or 30 seconds? I emailed about that thing.
But it's filling with PSAs, not just like.
Is it actual PSAs or is it promos for the station?
I didn't get my PSA in here.
You do. Send it over.
Yeah.
Because I need to refresh the PSAs. Because every time
I'm earning them. I'm earning my spot.
Exactly.
Jensen called me a radio whore the other day. He was like, "You're a radio whore." I'm like, Jensen Young.
I met him a couple weeks ago.
He is most
North Louisiana. Yeah.
He's one of the smartest guys you'll ever meet. Like, he's so smart.
Really?
You wouldn't. He's so on the.
He don't come across as dumb or out of mind. 652 Talk 107.3 FM WBRP. Mornings with Brian Haldane rolling right along. We are at 70 degrees in downtown Baton Rouge.
Yeah, don't break the needle there.
You know what? It's going to get hot enough today, David. I'm not giving one more degree.
That's right.
Which is going to bring us around the other part of what we're supposed to talk about today. I know. The other part of what we're supposed to talk about today was a continuation of last week's conversation about fairs and festivals.
Yep.
We'll get to that. But I wanted to wrap up what we were talking about a minute ago. And by the way, just as a side note, this is why we started this.
Yep.
Because once you and I get talking, like, who knows where it's going?
Like 2 HD chickens. What was I doing?
It's ADD radio. The way it was meant to be. But we're talking about having a voice.
Yes.
And taking advantage of that voice wherever it is. And, you know, you're finding that it's when you're, behind your guitar and a microphone, and then during a break or after your set or whatever, hey, the party's still going on. I could chat somebody up.
Yep.
It's finding those opportunities it's a matter of just swinging the bat when the pitch comes.
That's it.
And I think we have a lot more opportunities than we give ourselves credit for, but it's just easier to bitch.
Well, I think it also is easier to live in fear. So fear and judgment is what we are scared of, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, I don't want to be judged by he's going to think I'm stupid. My question's dumb. It doesn't mean anything, but that's crap. I mean, they work for us. We are their constituents.
Yeah.
They want to hear from us.
Yes.
It's like having funding, but not a program to fill the funding. I mean, their job is to hear from you. They want to hear from you. Obviously, they don't want to listen to somebody complain to them all the time, but if they're complaining, there's a reason. Well, and so they're happy to listen.
Just go through the bills every session.
Yeah.
And you're going to notice a trend or a pattern where a lot of bills feel like they were built off of something very anecdotal. Yeah. Something that had to have happened to someone. So they brought it to someone's attention.
Yeah.
Someone else's attention. And it could be something that happened in real life, or it could be something that, somebody sitting alone in their home saw on Newsmax and decided it was going to be a problem here. And before you know it, it's a bill in front of our legislature.
Well, we see that with Ticketmaster because there's been a bill put into our session here in Louisiana. And then also we see that you had a great interview yesterday. I texted Caleb Kleinpeter, Senator Kleinpeter.
Oh, thank you.
I was really impressed with him and just I'd love to see him.
He's going to be on the good things. I'm liking him a lot.
I'd love to see him run for continued elevated offices here in our state. I think he'd be a great representative for the state of Louisiana from a national standpoint. He's got such a powerful voice, and he's confident. And I love that confidence in him. And he's also been a practitioner. He's been on the roads, but he talked about that bill with the two young ladies and naming it if they do.
Police chases. Cool. Yeah, it's available on demand at talk1073.com if I can plug for just a second.
Please do.
But I've had him on 3 or 4 times now. He's been a home run every time.
And that's a reactionary bill.
Exactly.
That's a bill that's going, and I don't use the language correctly. Sorry, folks who do know this stuff, but we're reacting to a situation and there's going to be very impactful stuff that's going to come from that. I love the app idea. That was such a geofenced app. Was an awesome idea.
Alerting other motorists. Absolutely.
That's technology, using technology to its fullest and being able to, predict and proactively, keep people out of danger. Just, I think going back to it, fear, judgment, even personally, I have my own little self-doubt and self-worth issues. So when I'm standing there and I want to talk to them about, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know what to say. But the reaction that I normally get is just be you, just be yourself. Tell me what you actually need.
Yes.
And I will do what I can to help you if it is within my power. And I think that's been the consensus across the board every time I speak to one of our delegates or elected officials about, some of the passions that I have or the things that I'm pushing forward. So if and I mean, obviously emailing, phone calls, those are difficult to know whether or not they're listening or whether or not, but man, they want to hear from you. They want to know.
Absolutely.
So show up for those little things if you can.
Now, some of this is, there's a precursor. Know your basic civics.
Yes.
Know who runs what.
Yeah.
Know who you need to hit up.
Don't waste their time.
Right, exactly. I've had, this is the weirdest thing. In the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 different people message me saying they're having trouble getting a new garbage can. One of these 3 people said, I've tried to hit up my state senator and I get no response. I'm like, that's not their job. Protect your council person.
Right. Well, I guess I figure start at the top and we'll see what happens as it trickles down. But
every month we have the Ask the Governor show, right?
Right.
Every month on Ask the Governor, they're like, hey, I got to talk to you about a servitude behind my... The governor's gig.
Right.
The president. Like, no.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, and it's because the poor governor, or not the poor governor, but listen to me, the poor delegates that are in that moment, because they want to help, and they like, well, let me, so that you could see the wheel turning in their head. They're thinking, what DPW guy do I need to call for you real quick?
Exactly.
So, but it's, so obviously, and I do feel like an idiot most of the time when I'm talking to him because I don't really know the political gestures, the handshakes or the what to say all the time. But it comes down to just being honest and just being open about it and saying what you feel.
Absolutely. You don't have to follow Robert's Rules of Order outside of the session.
No, we're not in the chamber.
Exactly.
So there's no reason why we need to be official.
We got about 2 minutes till we're done. And we could pick this up at another time as well, because all summer long, this is going to be an issue. All right.
Kid Rock.
All right. I went Eminem, you went Kid Rock. There it is. All summer long.
Caleb. Look at this. I love it. Senator Klein Peters listening. Thank you, buddy.
Awesome stuff. Last week we were talking about Memorial Day and how Bayou Country Superfest made Baton Rouge a location for Memorial Day, and now we're back to having some of the peripheral things. I mean, not to take a shot at the Jump Alive Festival or the Cajun Country Cajunness that was...
That was awesome.
They're both awesome, but they're not tourist draws. Where we're getting into now is the part of our festival season where there can't be festivals.
Right. It's because it's 400 degrees outside.
Exactly.
So you're either on the river or inside.
Do we just kind of bear it for right now, or is there an alternate solution?
I mean, so if we had
I asked you with 40 seconds ago.
If we had a promoter out there that's interested in getting into the promotions live event business, we would welcome them to join in a conversation about, investing in live events that could bring tourism to Baton Rouge.
Let's pick this up.
That's where we're headed.
Like when it's peak hotness outside, and we're looking for.
We should do it outside live.
Absolutely. David St. Romain, I appreciate a couple minutes, but we'll pick this conversation up again next week.
Value in today.
Always. We got ABC News coming your way. Hour 2 is up next.